Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're here because you want to learn English and, well, you want to do it the smart way, the effective way. Let's face it, tackling a new language is a real mental workout, but think about what opens up for you. Connecting with people across the globe, new career possibilities, whole new cultures to explore. That's a massive reward.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, the material you shared takes a really fascinating look at exactly how your brain rises to this challenge. It's quite a comprehensive guide exploring the neuroscience behind language learning.
Exactly. Forget just the usual tips. We're diving deep into how your brain actually operates when you're picking up English. Our mission is to, extract the key neuroscientific principles from this guide and turn them into practical strategies you can use right now to really boost your progress and maybe break through any learning roadblocks you might be facing.
So let's jump straight in. The guide begins by discussing neuroplasticity. Now that might sound like a complex term, but what's the core idea there?
Okay, let's unpack this. Neuroplasticity, at its heart, is your brain's incredible ability to reshape itself. Think of it like this. Your brain isn't some fixed piece of hardware. It's constantly rewiring its connections based on what you do and what you learn. So when you start immersing yourself in English, this amazing adaptability kind of kicks into high gear.
That's a great way to put it. And the guide highlights some tangible changes that happen in the brain as you learn a language. What are some of the key physical shifts?
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. The guide points out that we actually see an increase in the density of gray matter in specific areas. Take the hippocampus, for example, that's crucial for forming new memories.
Right, memory.
And Broca's area, which is so important for producing speech, also gets more developed. So literally, by actively learning English vocabulary and, trying to speak, you're physically beefing up the parts of your brain responsible for these very functions, and not just for language, but for memory in general. Pretty cool.
And it's not just the brain cells themselves, is it? The guide also talks about white matter. What role does that play in all of this?
Right. White matter is like your brain's internal communication network. It's made up of nerve fibers that connect different brain regions. When you're learning English, this white matter becomes more efficient, allowing for faster and smoother communication between the language processing centers in your brain. Think of it as upgrading the information superhighways in your head.
So for you, the listener who's putting in the effort to learn English, what's the practical takeaway from understanding neuroplasticity and these brain changes?
Well, the big takeaway is that consistent practice isn't just a suggestion. It's actually strengthening these neural pathways in a very real physical way. Every time you study, every time you speak or listen, you're reinforcing those connections in your brain. It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes, making English come more naturally over time.
That leads us nicely into the specific brain regions involved in language. Understanding which parts are doing what can help you appreciate the complexity and also maybe focus your learning efforts.
Absolutely. So as we kind of touched on, Broca's area is your go-to for putting words together and grappling with grammar. Then you have Wernicke's area, which is absolutely vital for understanding language. When someone speaks to you in English or you're reading, Wernicke's area is working hard to decode those words.
And memory is obviously crucial for language learning. The hippocampus plays a central role there, doesn't it?
Exactly. The hippocampus is essential for forming and holding on to new memories. And that includes all the new vocabulary and those, sometimes tricky grammar rules you're encountering. And then we have the auditory cortex, which is busy processing all the sounds of the English language. It's learning to distinguish between sounds that might not even exist in your native tongue.
And finally, the prefrontal cortex. That sounds like a more high-level control center.
It is. The prefrontal cortex is involved in making decisions, staying focused, and solving problems. So when you're trying to find the right word or navigate a complex sentence structure, your prefrontal cortex is actively engaged. And here's a really interesting point from the guide. People who speak more than one language tend to have a more active dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
The dorsolateral part.
Yeah, think of this area like your brain's air traffic controller, helping you manage tasks and stay focused. And surprisingly, learning English seems to give this area a real boost, which might explain why bilinguals often show enhanced multitasking abilities and cognitive control. So it's not just about the language itself. It's like giving your brain a regular workout that makes you sharper in other areas too.
That's fascinating and definitely something that might motivate listeners even further. Now, the guide then goes into the crucial role that memory plays in language acquisition. It makes a distinction between declarative and procedural memory. Can you explain what those are?
Sure. Declarative memory is what we typically think of as conscious memory. It's for facts and information that you can actively recall. In the context of language learning, this includes your vocabulary lists and grammar rules. You can consciously try to memorize these.
Okay, the explicit stuff.
Right. Procedural memory, on the other hand, is more unconscious. It's for skills and habits that become automatic, like speaking fluently without having to consciously think about every single word or grammatical structure. Think of it like the difference between knowing the rules of riding a bike and actually being able to hop on and ride without falling.
That's a great analogy. So for you, the listener, what are some science-backed ways to optimize both these types of memory when you're learning English?
Well, for declarative memory, those vocab words and grammar rules, the research strongly supports techniques like spaced repetition and active recall. Spaced repetition involves reviewing material at increasing intervals over time. So you might review a new word frequently at first, but as it becomes more ingrained, you review it less and less often.
Right, so you don't forget it, but you're not constantly hammering it either.
Exactly. And active recall is all about actively trying to pull information from your memory, testing yourself, for instance, instead of just passively rereading your notes, like using flashcards.
And how do these strategies for declarative memory then contribute to the development of procedural memory, the more automatic aspects of speaking?
Well, while spaced repetition and active recall primarily target those conscious memories of vocabulary and grammar, they actually lay a really strong foundation for procedural memory. By solidifying your understanding of the building blocks of the language, you free up your mental resources to focus on the flow and automaticity of speaking.
Makes sense.
It's similar to how knowing the individual notes on a piano allows you to eventually play a melody without consciously thinking about each note separately. Consistent practice, especially lots of speaking practice, is absolutely key for developing that automaticity of procedural memory.
Okay. The guide then touches upon the science of how quickly we can learn languages and brings up the critical period hypothesis. This is something many adult learners are often curious and perhaps a little worried about.
Absolutely. The critical period hypothesis suggests that there's a specific window in early childhood when our brains are particularly primed for language learning, making it seem more effortless for kids. And yeah, children often pick up languages seemingly without even trying.
You see it all the time.
Right. However, the good news for adult learners like you is that while that heightened early plasticity might decrease over time, adults have their own distinct advantages. We excel at explicit learning. That is, understanding and consciously applying grammar rules, for example. So it's a different learning path, not necessarily a slower one in the long run.
That's a really reassuring point. The guide also emphasizes the significant role of dopamine and motivation in our learning. Why are these so important when it comes to picking up a new language?
Dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter, often referred to as the reward chemical in the brain. It plays a vital role in both learning and memory formation. When you experience something enjoyable or achieve a goal, dopamine is released, and this actually strengthens the memory of that experience.
So feeling good helps you remember.
Basically, yeah. So when your English learning is enjoyable and you feel a sense of accomplishment, your brain is much more likely to retain what you've learned. Motivation and reward are really intertwined with memory.
So how can listeners actively tap into this dopamine system to boost their language learning?
The guide gives some really practical tips here. Setting small, achievable goals is a big one. Every time you reach one of those mini milestones, you get a little dopamine boost.
Like finishing a chapter or learning 10 new words.
Exactly. Turning your learning into a game, like using apps that have points or streaks, also taps into this reward mechanism. And perhaps most importantly, engaging with English content that you genuinely enjoy, whether it's your favorite movies, music, or podcasts, makes the learning process more pleasurable and therefore much more effective. Find what you love.
It's fascinating how all these different aspects of neuroscience are interconnected in the learning process. The guide then moves on to something we all hopefully prioritize. Sleep. How does getting enough sleep contribute to language retention?
Well, this is truly amazing. During the deep stages of sleep, your brain actually replays and consolidates the new information you've taken in during the day, and that includes new vocabulary and grammar concepts. It's almost like your brain is conducting its own overnight review session without you even knowing it.
That's incredible. So what's the practical implication of this for someone learning English? Is there a specific timing?
Definitely try this. Review your English lessons or go over new vocabulary right before you go to bed. This primes your brain to consolidate that information while you sleep, potentially leading to much better retention. So a little review before sleep can go a long way.
Okay, so we've explored how the brain learns. Now let's delve into the specific neuroscience-backed learning strategies that your guide highlights. The first one we touched on earlier, spaced repetition and active recall. Can we go into more detail about how to actually put these into practice?
Absolutely. Spaced repetition, as we discussed, is about reviewing material at increasing intervals. Instead of trying to cram everything in right before a test or a lesson, you revisit the information strategically over time. Active recall is about deliberately forcing your brain to retrieve information without immediately looking at the answer.
So less passive reading, more active testing.
Exactly. Think about using flashcards and making yourself remember the meaning before you flip them over, or trying to answer practice questions without looking back at your notes. That struggle to retrieve is what strengthens the memory.
And the guide also points to some specific tools that can really help with implementing these techniques effectively.
Yes, there are some fantastic digital tools out there. Anki is a very popular flashcard program that uses a sophisticated algorithm to automatically schedule your reviews based on how well you know the material. Quizlet and Memrise also offer similar features and can make learning vocabulary and grammar much more efficient and even enjoyable. These tools essentially take the guesswork out of when you need to review something.
Yeah, they manage the spacing for you, which is great. Another key strategy emphasized is immersion and contextual learning. From a neuroscientific perspective, why is learning within a real-world context so much more effective?
Well, the brain is designed to learn by making connections, and it does this best when it can link new information to real, meaningful situations. When you're immersed in English, you're not just memorizing isolated words and grammar rules. You're seeing and hearing them used in context, which helps create stronger and more varied neural connections. It's like your brain is building a more complete and interconnected map of the language, rather than just isolated data points.
And what are some tangible ways that listeners can create this sense of immersion in their daily lives, even if they're not living in an English-speaking environment?
Oh, there are so many ways to bring English into your world. Watching English language TV shows and movies with subtitles, maybe starting with subtitles in your language, then English, then eventually trying without.
Yeah, gradually increasing the challenge.
Right. Consciously trying to think in English instead of constantly translating from your native language, that's a tough one, but powerful. And joining online or in-person language exchange groups are all incredibly valuable ways to create a more immersive environment. Even simple things like changing the language settings on your phone or computer can subtly reinforce your learning every day.
The next strategy the guide highlights is multisensory learning. What's the science behind engaging multiple senses in the learning process?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. When you engage multiple senses, seeing, hearing, speaking, writing, you're essentially creating more pathways in your brain for that information to travel and be stored. By involving more parts of your brain in the learning process, the memory becomes richer, more detailed, and therefore more robust and easier to recall. More hooks to hang the memory on,
Can you give us a clear example of how someone might apply multisensory learning techniques when studying English?
Absolutely. Let's say you're learning a new word. You could listen to the word being pronounced, that's your auditory sense, write the word down, engaging your motor skills and visual sense, see the word written, visual again, and then use it yourself in a sentence out loud, involving your verbal output and hearing yourself say it. By actively combining these different sensory experiences, you're creating a much more powerful and lasting memory trace in your brain. Don't just read it, do things with it.
Makes sense. Now, the guide also points out some common pitfalls that can actually hinder your progress when learning English. What are some of the major ones to be aware of?
Okay, yeah, pitfalls. One significant one is relying too heavily on passive learning, simply reading or listening, without actively producing the language yourself. While input is definitely crucial, you also need output. Speaking and writing helps solidify your understanding and allow you to identify areas where you need more practice. It forces you to actually use the language.
Right, you can't just consume forever.
Exactly. Another common mistake is the fear of making errors. It's natural to want to be perfect, but mistakes are actually a vital part of the learning process. They signal to your brain where it needs to adjust and improve. Think of them as data points for learning.
A necessary part of the process, really.
Definitely. And finally, neglecting pronunciation and phonetics can really slow you down in the long run, making it harder for others to understand you, and importantly, for you to accurately understand native speakers when they speak quickly.
So, what are some effective ways to address and overcome these common mistakes?
Okay, for the issue of passive learning, the key is to actively use the language. Try summarizing what you've read or heard, engage in conversations, write emails and messages in English, anything that gets you producing. To tackle the fear of making mistakes, try to reframe them as learning opportunities. Seek out supportive, low-pressure environments to practice speaking, like language exchange partners. And remember that everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language. It's okay.
And for pronunciation?
For pronunciation, make a conscious effort to practice minimal pairs, words that differ by only one sound like pen and pin, or ship and sheep, and try shadowing native speakers. Listen to them and repeat what they say as closely as possible, mimicking their intonation and rhythm.
Good tips. The guide then shifts to practical tips for really accelerating your English learning. Technology seems to play a big role here.
Absolutely. Technology offers some incredible resources for language learners today. AI-powered language models like ChatGPT can be fantastic for getting conversational practice. Even when you don't have a human partner readily available, you can ask it questions, have it correct you, role-play scenarios.
Like a tireless practice partner.
Exactly. And VR language learning applications can create incredibly immersive experiences that simulate real-world interactions and scenarios, like ordering coffee or navigating an airport, all in English.
Wow, yeah. And engaging in actual conversations early on is another key recommendation for faster progress.
Yes, the sooner you start speaking, the better. Platforms like Tandem and HelloTalk can connect you with native English speakers for language exchange. You teach them your language, they help you with English. And groups like Toastmasters, although maybe a bit intimidating at first, can provide a supportive and structured environment to practice your public speaking skills in English. Don't wait until you feel completely ready to start speaking. Just jump in and learn as you go. The experience itself is invaluable.
That learn-by-doing approach. Finally, the guide touches on the power of leveraging mnemonics and storytelling in language learning. How can these techniques be so effective?
Mnemonics and storytelling are incredibly effective memory aids because they tap into your brain's natural inclination to remember visual and narrative information. Our brains love stories and weird images. Linking new English words to vivid mental images or creating short, memorable stories around them could make them much easier to recall later.
Like making it stickier in your mind.
Precisely. For example, the guide uses the word ponder and suggests picturing a pond where you go to think deeply, to ponder. These kinds of associations create much stronger and more lasting memory anchors in your brain compared to just trying to brute force memorize the definition.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive into the neuroscience of language learning. To bring it all together, can you summarize the key takeaways for our listeners who are on this journey of learning English?
Certainly. The core ideas are that your brain is remarkably adaptable thanks to neuroplasticity, and consistent practice physically strengthens the neural pathways you need for English. Techniques like spaced repetition and active recall are scientifically proven to significantly improve memory. Use those tools.
Right, the practical stuff.
Yeah, immersing yourself in English and engaging multiple senses will create stronger and more diverse connections in your brain. Remember that your own motivation, fueled by things like dopamine from achieving small goals and even getting enough sleep, play vital roles in how well you retain what you learn.
Don't forget sleep.
Never. And by being aware of common pitfalls like passive learning or fear of mistakes, and actively leveraging technology and opportunities for early conversation, you can really accelerate your learning progress.
And perhaps the most empowering takeaway is understanding that learning a language isn't just about rote memorization. It's about actively training your brain in a way that's supported by how your brain naturally works. It puts you in the driver's seat.
Exactly. It's about making consistent daily effort rather than relying on intense, sporadic bursts of study. So as you continue on your English learning adventure, really consider how understanding these neuroscientific principles can empower you to take greater control over your learning journey. Think about which of these strategies resonate most with your individual learning style and start experimenting with them. You might be surprised at just how much faster and, well, more effectively you can progress when you're working with your brain's natural learning mechanisms, not against them. You know, it's amazing to think about just how much technology has changed the way we learn. I mean, learning is so basic to who we are, right? And for anyone out there who wants to really get a grip on this whole evolution, but without getting like totally swamped with information, well, consider this deep dive your shortcut. We've got a seriously thorough rundown of educational technology here, and we're going to trace that whole path starting with the absolute fundamentals and going all the way to those advancements that might have seemed like, pure science fiction not that long ago.
Absolutely.
We're not trying to overload you here. The idea is to pick out the most interesting, the most important bits so you come away feeling like genuinely in the know and maybe even a bit surprised by how far we've actually come.
I think there will be some surprises along the way.
Get ready for some of those aha moments as we connect the dots between how learning used to happen and, well, how it's happening for you right now.
Yeah, and I think when we look at this overview of educational technology, it's kind of wild to realize just how basic those earliest tools were, but also how important they were too.
Right.
Like, take slate boards and chalk, for example.
Yeah.
It's incredibly simple, but think about it. It was a way for a whole classroom to learn together, and you could erase and reuse them.
Totally.
And then you have printed textbooks, which for centuries were the main way people carried and shared knowledge.
It's true.
And even something like an overhead projector, with those transparencies, it was a big step towards showing visual information to a bunch of people at once.
Yeah.
And who can forget radio and television broadcasts? I mean, those were really early ways of reaching learners outside the classroom, which was a huge deal back then.
Okay, so let's break down this first phase a bit. It's cool to think about that shift from those very hands-on tools to the arrival of computers in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That must have felt like a gigantic leap at the time, right?
It really was.
This was the era of what's called computer-assisted learning, or CAL, as our overview describes.
Yes.
And it wasn't about surfing the web like we do now, was it? It was a lot more well-focused.
Right, exactly. Back then, before everyone had internet, the whole point was to use these early computer programs, that's CAL stuff, to really concentrate on the essentials, the building blocks of learning.
Yeah.
The software was designed to target very specific skills with lots of repetition and practice in things like math, science, and language.
Right.
It was all about strengthening that basic knowledge, but on a screen this time, with interactive exercises and such.
Okay.
And this is also when we started to see tools pop up that were all about developing, what we now call essential digital skills.
Gotcha.
Things like those typing programs, Mavis Beacon being the classic example.
I remember those.
Those were absolutely crucial for getting people ready for a world that was becoming more and more reliant on keyboards. I mean, think about it. For you today, typing is it's like second nature, right? But back then, it was a whole new skill that people had to learn, and they were using technology to teach it.
And speaking of learning new things, who else remembers getting their hands on a CD-ROM encyclopedia, like in Carta?
Oh, yeah.
It was mind-blowing. I mean, our overview mentions this shift, but it was just amazing that all that information, like an entire library's worth, could fit on one little disc.
Yeah.
It was such a change from lugging around those huge, heavy sets of, Britannica, for instance.
Totally. And you hit the nail on the head there. The key to that transition from physical books to a CD-ROM was breaking free from those physical limitations.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you had access to a ton of information in a way that was so much easier and more convenient. It was a crucial step, really, that set the stage for the information explosion that the internet would bring.
True.
You went from needing a whole bookshelf to needing a disk drive.
Right. And that takes us to the internet revolution, kind of the Wild West of the 90s and 2000s. Mm-hmm. Looking through this overview, this feels like the point where things really took off in terms of educational technology as we know it today.
Yeah, you could say that.
Suddenly you could do online research. It felt like magic, having all this information available instantly at your fingertips.
The impact of the World Wide Web was, transformative. There's no other word for it. Having instant access to a global network of information, it completely changed how students could do research and find resources. Mm-hmm. It democratized knowledge in a way that hadn't been possible before.
Right.
And then email came along and gave teachers and students a totally new way to communicate. It broke down the traditional boundaries of the school day and allowed for more flexible interactions.
That's a really good point.
And then, as the overview points out, we started seeing these early e-learning platforms popping up, basically websites that offered courses and tutorials. It sounds so basic now, but at the time it was a pretty radical idea, learning outside of a physical classroom on a larger scale.
Totally.
These early platforms laid the groundwork for the more advanced systems that we have today.
Okay, and that's where learning management systems, or LMS, come in, right?
Exactly.
Our overview mentions Blackboard, which came out in 1997, and Moodle a bit later, in 2002.
Yes.
And these weren't just static websites. They were designed specifically for online learning, weren't they?
Right. They weren't just places to find information. They offered tools for teachers and students to actually interact and manage the learning process.
So these LMS platforms, they weren't just about finding information, were they?
Not at all.
Our overview highlights that they offered actual tools for teachers and students to interact and manage the learning process. Right.
Exactly. An LMS provided a central online space where teachers could share all the course materials, things like syllabi, readings, lecture notes, all organized in one place. They also made digital assessments a lot easier, allowing for online quizzes and letting students submit their assignments electronically.
Yeah.
And really importantly, these systems had ways to track student progress, giving teachers valuable data on how their students were doing, something that was a lot harder to do in the pre-digital age.
Right.
So for you as a student today, using these platforms, that structure and organization, it's a direct result of this whole evolution.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to today, and the digital classroom looks completely different again, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Our overview goes into detail about things like interactive whiteboards, tablets, ebooks. It's like a whole ecosystem of digital tools that are just like normal now.
It really is. What's really interesting to see in this modern era is how interactive and engaging these tools are for you as a learner.
Yeah.
Interactive whiteboards, like smartboards, they allow teachers to create much more dynamic lessons, seamlessly integrating multimedia and hands-on activities right there at the front of the classroom.
Yeah.
And the widespread use of tablets and iPads has made learning even more personalized.
Mm-hmm.
Individual students have access to digital textbooks, a ton of educational apps that are tailored to different subjects and learning styles, and they have a wealth of resources literally at their fingertips.
It's true. And it's not just about the hardware either, is it?
Yeah.
Think about ebooks on Kindles or PDFs. As our overview points out, they're so much more portable and often more affordable than traditional textbooks.
Exactly.
Plus, we have these amazing digital libraries like Google Books and Project Gutenberg, giving you free access to a massive amount of literature and historical texts.
That accessibility is absolutely crucial for anyone seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
Digital formats remove the barriers of cost and physical space, making learning materials more readily available to a much wider audience than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's gamification, where platforms like Duolingo and Kahoots cleverly use game mechanics, things like virtual rewards, points, badges, friendly competition, and integrate them directly into the learning process.
Right.
It makes learning more engaging and inherently motivating.
My Duolingo owl can definitely attest to that. He keeps me on track.
I bet he does.
And let's not forget video-based learning.
Oh, absolutely not.
Our overview points to platforms like YouTube Edu and Khan Academy, which are basically like having free tutors available 24/7, covering pretty much any subject you can think of.
It's incredible.
And then there's TED Talks, which offer this fantastic access to experts in different fields, and they deliver their knowledge in a way that's both easy to understand and often really inspiring.
The power of video in learning, it lies in its ability to convey complex information in a way that's both engaging and accessible.
Totally.
Visual demonstrations, real-world examples brought to life through video, the personality of the presenter, all of these things can contribute to a much deeper and more memorable understanding of a topic. The abundance of free, high-quality video content out there has really democratized learning in a way we've never seen before.
It's true. And now we're moving into some really interesting territory as we look at the rise of artificial intelligence in education, something our overview highlights as a significant development in recent years.
It's very exciting.
It feels like we're right on the edge of another major shift in how we learn and how we teach.
It does feel that way.
What kind of impact are we starting to see from AI right now?
Well, AI is definitely starting to show up in various parts of education, and its influence is only going to grow. We're seeing these AI-powered tutoring systems emerging, sophisticated chatbots that can give students instant help with their homework, answer questions, offer explanations on all sorts of topics.
Okay.
But even more impactful in the long term, I think, is the development of adaptive learning software.
Okay, tell me more about that.
This software can analyze a student's performance as they're learning and adjust the difficulty and content of the lessons in real time to perfectly match their individual needs and learning pace.
So it's like almost like having a personal tutor that evolves with you as you learn.
Exactly. It's incredibly powerful in terms of tailoring education to the individual.
And what about the more, I guess, administrative side of things, like grading and feedback?
That's another area where AI is making a big difference, as our overview indicates.
Right.
Take tools like Grammarly, for example. They can automatically give feedback on writing, helping students spot and fix errors in grammar, spelling, and style.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing the development of increasingly sophisticated, automated essay scoring systems, which can help teachers grade written assignments much more efficiently, potentially freeing up their time for more direct interaction with their students and more personalized instruction.
And then there's the holy grail, it seems, truly personalized learning experiences on a large scale.
It's the dream.
How is AI helping to make that a reality for learners like you?
AI algorithms can analyze massive amounts of student data, their performance on assignments, their learning styles, their interests, and use that to create highly customized learning paths. Platforms like Coursera and Udemy are already using AI to recommend courses based on a user's interests and past activity on the platform, guiding them towards content that's most relevant to their specific goals and learning objectives. This level of personalization just wasn't possible before we had these technologies.
It's amazing. And this all seems to connect directly to the huge growth of online and remote learning, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
As our overview details, it feels like MOOCs and virtual classrooms have become a permanent and significant part of education.
They really have. The rise of massive open online courses, or MOOCs, offered by platforms like Coursera, edX, and Udacity, has given millions of people worldwide access to university-level education.
It's true.
It doesn't matter where they live or their economic background.
Right.
And as our overview notes, these platforms often offer valuable certification programs too, allowing people to gain verifiable skills remotely, which can be a huge help for career advancement.
And then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic really accelerated the adoption of virtual classrooms, with tools like Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams becoming absolutely essential for doing live video lectures and keeping teachers and students connected remotely.
No question about it.
Our overview is spot on when it points out how significant this shift was.
The pandemic really forced everyone to adopt virtual classroom technologies much faster than they might have otherwise.
Yeah.
What was once seen as a niche thing suddenly became a necessity, and it proved that live online instruction could work and it could be really flexible. And this rapid shift has also led to more exploration of hybrid learning models, which try to combine the best of both online and in-person education.
So can you explain a bit more about these blended or hybrid learning models that our overview mentions?
Of course.
What does that actually look like for someone learning today?
Blended learning typically involves a mix of online and traditional in-person teaching methods.
Okay.
It offers more flexibility and tries to cater to a wider range of learning preferences.
Right.
Another popular model is the flipped classroom, where students might watch lectures or review materials at home using videos or online resources.
Gotcha.
This frees up class time for more interactive discussions, collaborative problem solving, and deeper engagement with the subject matter.
Looking ahead now, it's almost hard to fathom what the landscape of education will be like even just a decade from now.
I know, right?
Our overview touches on some really cutting-edge technologies on the horizon. What are some of the most promising ones you see?
Virtual reality and augmented reality definitely have huge potential to create truly immersive and engaging learning experiences. Imagine VR field trips where students can virtually explore ancient Rome or even the surface of Mars, all without leaving the classroom.
That's wild.
It's a level of experiential learning that was impossible before.
Yeah.
Similarly, AR textbooks could overlay interactive 3D models and simulations right onto the pages, bringing abstract concepts to life in a much more tangible and understandable way.
That sounds incredible.
It is pretty amazing.
What about some of the technologies that might be a little less, visually obvious? I've heard some buzz about blockchain technology potentially being used in education, which our overview mentions as well.
Yes, blockchain technology has some interesting possibilities for education. One key application is creating secure and easily verifiable digital diplomas and certificates. This could make it much easier for people to prove their qualifications to employers or educational institutions. It could also provide a more transparent and tamper-proof system for tracking academic achievements and credentials over time.
That makes sense.
And of course, all of this increasingly relies on having a strong digital infrastructure, right? The role of faster internet speeds and more reliable connectivity, like what 5G promises, is going to be huge for the future of educational technology, as our overview suggests.
Absolutely. Faster internet speeds are essential for seamless streaming of high-quality educational content, for real-time collaboration on projects among students in different locations, and for effectively using those increasingly sophisticated cloud-based learning tools and platforms.
It's true.
As connectivity continues to improve, so will the capabilities and the overall experience of educational technology.
There's no doubt about that.
So, to sum it all up, it's been a remarkable journey that our overview has laid out for us.
It really has.
From those incredibly simple slate boards and chalk to the potential of AI-driven personalized learning experiences, it's a transformation on a massive scale.
What's truly remarkable is how all of these advancements collectively give you, the learner, unprecedented opportunities. Whether it's access to a vastly wider range of learning resources than ever before, practicing language skills through highly interactive apps, or connecting and collaborating with a global community of learners, the possibilities for education and personal growth are truly vast.
And it's clear that this evolution is far from over. We're going to keep seeing new tools and innovative approaches emerge in educational technology.
Absolutely.
Adapting to that ongoing change is going to be key for all of us.
And this leads to a really important question for you to consider. Given how quickly technology is changing education, what fundamental skills do you think will be most crucial for learners to develop and have in this increasingly digital future?
It's a great question.
It's definitely something worth thinking about as we continue to navigate this exciting and ever-changing world of learning. Okay, so think about this for a sec. How many times a day you bump into something run by AI?
Oh, yeah.
Like that voice telling you where to turn when you're driving, or how does your streaming service just nail it with what you want to watch next, even like news articles in your feed. AI is everywhere. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today's all about the world of AI and its impact on society.
Totally.
We've got some really interesting material that gives us like a great overview, and we're going to try to make this as clear as possible.
Yeah.
So we're on a mission here to really understand what AI is, how it's changing things up all around you, and what's coming up next.
Right.
But no getting lost in all the technical jargon we promise.
I'm going to break it down nice and easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll be covering everything, the basics of AI, how it's used in real life, and where it's all headed.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in with the fundamentals. What exactly is artificial intelligence?
Okay, so
Our material gives us a solid starting point. It's all about computer systems that can do things that usually need human smarts. We're talking problem solving, making decisions, understanding language when you talk to your phone, and even recognizing images.
totally, that's the heart of it.
So it's like teaching computers to think like us.
In a way. Yeah, but to make it even clearer, our sources lay out three main types of AI.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The first one is narrow AI, or sometimes called weak AI. Think of this as AI that has a very specific job.
Like a specialist.
Exactly like that facial recognition that unlocks your phone, or those chatbots that help you out with customer service online. Those are great examples.
Right. So they're good at one thing?
And even though they might seem limited, all those narrow AI applications working together, they're really changing how we live and how the economy works.
So it's like a team of specialists each doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Then we get to something that sounds a bit more sci-fi general AI or strong AI.
This one's cool.
And our sources make it clear this type is still mostly theoretical.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet.
So this would be an AI with the brain power to tackle any intellectual task a human can.
Imagine a machine that can learn, reason, and use knowledge in tons of different situations, just like we do.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. And actually getting to that level of adaptable intelligence, that's one of the big challenges in AI research right now.
So it's like the ultimate goal.
You could say that.
Then we push even further into the future and we have super intelligent AI.
Okay, now we're talking.
This is AI that would not only be as smart as humans, but actually smarter.
In pretty much every way. It's a concept that brings up all sorts of possibilities and challenges.
Yes, I can imagine.
But for now, it's more in the realm of speculation than reality.
Definitely something to think about.
For sure.
Now, our sources also bring up an important difference between machine learning and deep learning.
Oh yeah, that's key.
For someone who's just starting to wrap their head around AI, how do those two ideas connect?
So think of machine learning like the big umbrella, the way AI systems learn from data without being programmed for every single little thing. Instead, the AI spots patterns and makes predictions based on the info it's been given.
So instead of telling the computer exactly what to do step by step, we feed it data and it figures things out on its own.
It's like learning by example, but for computers.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And then deep learning, that's a more advanced and powerful technique within machine learning.
Okay.
It uses neural networks. These are super complex structures, kind of inspired by how the human brain works.
I've heard of those.
Think of it like a massive web of interconnected decision points. And these networks, they can analyze really intricate patterns in mountains of data.
So it's like the brain of the AI.
You could think of it that way. And that's why deep learning has been so successful in areas like recognizing images and understanding speech.
So machine learning is the general idea of learning from data, and deep learning is a really good way of doing that for tougher tasks.
Exactly.
Okay, that clears things up a bit. Now it's easy to get carried away by all the impressive stuff AI can do, but our sources also remind us that AI and human intelligence are fundamentally different.
That's super important to remember.
Totally.
Yeah.
So while AI can process massive amounts of information ridiculously fast, it doesn't have those human things like emotions, the real creativity and consciousness.
And that's what makes us human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can pick up on subtle cues, understand context in a human way, and make ethical decisions that aren't just based on code.
AI is a crazy powerful tool, but it can't fully replace the breadth and depth of the human mind.
It's like AI's got the horsepower, but we've got the steering wheel.
I like that analogy.
Our sources give us a really cool historical overview of how AI has developed over time.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Definitely, this wasn't something that just popped up overnight. Its roots go back to the mid-20th century.
Right.
Our sources mention Alan Turing's Turing test from 1950.
Oh, yeah.
Which even now is a major benchmark for thinking about machine intelligence.
Absolutely.
The idea of a machine being able to convincingly imitate human conversation was a game changer.
It really set the stage for years and years of research into whether machines could actually think.
And then just a few years later, in 1956, we have the Dartmouth Conference, which is widely seen as the birthplace of the term artificial intelligence.
That's where the field as we know it really started to take shape.
And then moving forward a bit, we had ELIZA in 1966.
Oh, Eliza?
Which our sources highlight as one of the very first chatbots.
Yeah.
Looking back, it might seem super basic compared to what we have now.
It definitely was.
But at the time, it was a huge step toward getting computers to interact with human language.
It really shows you how far the tech has come in a pretty short time.
It's like comparing the first car to a self-driving Tesla.
Pretty much.
ELIZA was a pivotal moment. It showed the potential of getting computers to understand and use language.
Exactly. And then fast forward a few decades, and we get to some big milestones that brought AI into the spotlight. Like when IBM's Deep Blue beat chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov in 1997.
Oh yeah, that was huge.
It was a landmark moment. It showed that AI could handle super complex strategic challenges.
It was a real wake-up call for a lot of people.
For sure, it demonstrated AI's ability to go head-to-head with the best human minds in certain areas.
Then in 2011, Apple introduced Siri.
That felt like a turning point.
Yeah, for the first time, many of us had an AI assistant right there in our pocket.
Siri made AI accessible to everyone. It became part of our daily lives.
And then another big achievement in 2016.
Okay.
Google's AlphaGo beat a world champion in Go.
Oh, yeah.
The game that's way more complex and intuitive than chess.
Right. That win really emphasized how much progress had been made in machine learning and AI's ability to master super intricate systems.
It really showcased the power of AI to learn and strategize at a level we thought was uniquely human.
Totally. And so where are we now? Our sources bring us right up to speed, talking about how AI is integrated into almost everything.
It really is, from our smartphones to healthcare and finance. And then you've got the rise of generative AI like ChatGPT and DALL-E that can create text images, even music.
It's crazy.
It's a time of super fast innovation, and it's affecting your life in so many ways you might not even realize it.
And that leads us to the next big thing. Our sources dive into the everyday applications of AI that you probably run into all the time.
It's not just in labs anymore.
Nope.
Think about the personal assistants you might use. Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant. Our sources point out how they help you set reminders, do voice searches, even control smart devices in your home.
It's become so normal, it's easy to forget how much we rely on it.
It's true. And speaking of smart homes, you've got AI-powered thermostats like Nest that learn your temperature preferences.
Oh, yeah.
Security cameras like Ring that use AI for motion detection, and even recognizing faces and lighting systems that adjust based on your habits and the time of day.
AI is making our homes more comfortable and efficient.
And don't forget how AI influences our downtime. Our sources mention how Netflix recommends shows based on what you've watched and how Spotify creates those custom playlists.
It's like having a personal DJ.
It's AI working behind the scenes to shape your entertainment.
AI is becoming a silent but powerful force in our lives.
It's true, but the impact of AI goes way beyond our personal lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources also explore how it's transforming different industries.
Like healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare feels like an area with huge potential to benefit from AI.
For sure. Our sources talk about how it's being used to analyze medical images, things like X-rays and MRIs, often faster and more accurately than humans can.
And it's not just about spotting existing problems. Predictive AI is also being used to find patients who might be at higher risk for certain diseases.
That's so important for preventive care.
And then there's robotic surgery, where AI-assisted robots are doing incredibly precise procedures.
It's like having a surgeon with superhuman steadiness.
It's mind-blowing to think AI could help surgeons achieve a level of accuracy that might be impossible for humans alone.
Totally.
Our sources also mention drug development, where AI is speeding up the process of analyzing tons of chemical compounds to find potential new treatments.
That could totally change how quickly we discover life-saving meds.
Let's move on to education, another vital area.
Yeah.
Our sources point to personalized learning platforms like Duolingo,
I love Duolingo.
which adapt to each student's progress and needs this kind of tailored approach, can make learning more effective and engaging no matter your skill level.
It's like having a personal tutor.
And then there's the increasing use of AI tutors and chatbots, like some powered by the same tech behind ChatGPT,
Oh yeah, ChatGPT.
offering help with homework and language learning.
It's like having a study buddy available 24/7.
And for teachers, AI is giving them tools like automated grading systems that can assess essays and multiple choice tests.
Which frees up more time for them to work directly with students.
Now let's shift gears to business and industry. Our sources discuss automation and how jobs are changing. We're seeing AI taking over repetitive tasks like data entry and certain manufacturing processes.
That's boosting efficiency and productivity, but it also brings up some important questions about the future of work.
Definitely something to think about, but right now, AI-powered chatbots are super common in customer service.
Yeah, I talk to them all the time.
They're handling inquiries and giving support 24/7 for banks, websites, all sorts of businesses.
It's changed how we interact with companies.
For sure, and then you've got AI playing a key role in marketing and advertising.
Oh yeah.
It analyzes tons of consumer data to create super targeted ad campaigns.
So it's all about figuring out what makes us tick.
Exactly. And lastly, let's look at transportation.
Okay.
The development of self-driving cars by companies like Tesla and Waymo.
That's the big one.
It's one of the most talked about applications of AI, and it has the potential to revolutionize how we get around.
It's coming, whether we're ready or not.
And beyond just self-driving cars, our sources mention how AI is being used to improve traffic flow in cities
That would be nice.
and to make flight routes and package delivery more efficient.
So it's making transportation smarter and more efficient across the board.
All these incredible applications show just how transformative AI is,
It's changing the game.
offering huge benefits in efficiency, productivity, and even convenience for you in your everyday life.
So we've gone through the definition and history of AI
Right.
and explored its many uses in your world and across different industries.
Now, as we look ahead, what are some of the potential advancements in AI research that our sources point to?
Well, the one that gets everyone excited is artificial general intelligence,
AGI.
AI with human-level reasoning abilities.
So AI that can think like us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's still a long way off.
Yeah.
But our sources also highlight the growing potential for AI and humans to work together.
So it's not about AI taking over our jobs, but working alongside us.
Right, augmenting our abilities in areas like medicine, scientific discovery, even creative fields.
It's pretty exciting to imagine doctors using AI to diagnose diseases more accurately, or scientists using it to speed up discoveries.
And in creative fields, AI could become a powerful tool for artists, musicians, writers, helping them come up with new ideas and creating completely new forms of expression.
The possibilities seem endless.
As AI keeps evolving, it's clear it's going to play a huge role in shaping our future. Understanding its capabilities and potential is becoming crucial for everyone.
So to wrap up our deep dive today, we've covered a lot, drawing from a really insightful overview of artificial intelligence.
We've explored its definition, its journey through history, its wide range of uses in your life and across industries, and we've thought about some of the exciting possibilities the future of AI might hold.
And as our sources emphasize, understanding AI isn't just for tech experts anymore.
It's a valuable skill in today's world, relevant for navigating your daily life, understanding potential career paths, and engaging with the changes AI is bringing about.
So here's a final thought for you to ponder. As AI keeps advancing, we're at a pivotal moment. This technology has the power to change society in profound ways, affecting almost every part of our lives.
It's true.
Thinking about everything we've discussed today, what aspects of AI's future do you find most promising? And what potential changes do you think need the most careful thought as this powerful tech becomes even more integrated into our world?
It's a conversation that will definitely keep going as the technology itself evolves.
Yeah, it will.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so today we're gonna really dive into social media.
Yeah.
It's something obviously we all use every day.
Yeah.
And we have this huge analysis of it,
Right.
which really tries to lay out all the different ways it's impacting our lives.
Yeah.
So it's affecting how we communicate, how we learn,
Yeah.
how businesses work, how it affects our mental health, politics, privacy, you name it.
It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You can't really escape it.
It's kind of inescapable at this point.
Yeah.
So the goal today is not to rehash all the basics, because I think most people listening probably already have a pretty good grasp of the basics of how these different platforms work.
I would say so.
But we're going to try to extract the most important insights from this analysis.
Yeah, the core stuff.
To give you a more structured and nuanced understanding.
Exactly.
So this analysis, it's pretty comprehensive.
It is.
We've really dug deep into it. So we're going to try to pull out the most important findings.
Absolutely.
Give you a balanced perspective on the good and the bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of both.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So why don't we just jump right in?
Sure.
And I think maybe one of the most fundamental things to look at is how social media affects our communication and our relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Because, that's the core of it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what it was built for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this analysis points to some really interesting dynamics.
It does. It's kind of a paradox in some ways.
Yeah.
Because it gives us all this amazing connectivity.
Right.
But it also kind of presents challenges to the depth and quality of our interactions.
Yeah, are we really connecting?
Exactly.
Or are we just
or is it just surface level?
on the surface?
Yeah.
So on the positive side, obviously one of the biggest things is just this instant messaging.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you can just open up WhatsApp or Messenger or Instagram.
Or any of those.
And send a text, a photo, a video.
Uh-huh.
That's
It's instantaneous.
huge.
It really changes things.
It's hard to remember what it was like before.
Yeah. No, right?
What do we even do?
That, I don't even know.
So, and the analysis really emphasizes that global connectivity.
Yeah.
Being able to interact with different cultures and viewpoints and everything.
Yeah, and it mentions specifically Facebook, even
Right.
with all of its issues.
Right.
It has really helped people reconnect with old friends, classmates, distant relatives.
How many people have found their long lost whatever
On Facebook, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
But of course, the analysis also talks about the downsides.
Yeah, for sure.
And one that really struck me was this idea of the inherent superficiality
Right.
of online interaction.
It's just not the same.
It's just not the same as a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, you miss all those nonverbal cues.
Yeah, all the body language, the tone of voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can lead to so many misunderstandings.
Oh, totally.
Because, you read a text and you're like, wait.
Right, what do they mean by that?
Yeah, what is the tone here?
Yeah.
So much room for miscommunication.
And then, of course, there's the addictive nature of it.
Oh, yeah.
The analysis talks about how these platforms are designed to keep you scrolling.
They are. They're very good at it.
And it's so easy to just get sucked in.
Yeah. And then you neglect, your real life relationships.
Right.
You're not spending time with the people right there in front of you.
So I think this is a good point to kind of throw a question out to our listeners.
Yeah.
Based on everything we've just talked about and your own experiences,
Right.
do you think social media ultimately brings people closer together?
Yeah.
Or does it create distance in our relationships?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so moving on from communication,
Okay.
let's talk about education and learning.
Yeah. How we learn.
Because this is another area where social media has had a huge impact.
A huge impact.
And the analysis points to both opportunities and challenges here.
Yeah. Both sides of the coin.
So on the positive side,
Yeah.
you can't deny that there's been this explosion of online learning platforms.
It's incredible.
YouTube, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning.
All of those.
The amount of information that is available to anyone with an internet connection is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really democratized education in a way.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's amazing.
And the analysis also talks about the collaborative aspects,
Right.
like Facebook groups, Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Like these are tools that allow students and teachers to share resources, to discuss ideas, like in ways that just weren't possible before.
It's great for like peer-to-peer learning.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can get help from other students. You can ask questions.
It's like a global classroom in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for language learning,
Oh, yeah.
like the analysis specifically mentions tools like Duolingo and language exchange groups on Reddit.
It's so much easier now to like practice with native speakers.
Yeah, to actually like have conversations with people from all over the world,
And that's like essential for like really mastering a new language.
especially English.
Oh, yeah. Especially with English.
Yeah.
So many people learning English.
But of course,
Yeah,
there are also challenges.
there are.
And I think one of the biggest ones that the analysis talks about is just distraction.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get distracted
It
because
is.
when you're trying to learn.
Like you're trying to study and then,
Right, you have all these notifications popping up.
yeah, you got the pings and the buzzes and the,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, what's this video?
Right, and then you fall down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've
So-
wasted an hour.
yeah, you're like, wait, what was I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So easy to get sucked in.
And the analysis also talks about misinformation,
Right.
which is a huge problem
It is a big one.
because it can be really hard to sift through all the information online
Yeah.
and figure out what's true and what's not.
And things spread so quickly.
Right.
Like it's hard to keep up.
So again, like thinking about our listeners,
Yeah.
based on your own experiences,
Uh-huh.
how has social media helped or hindered your learning journey?
That's a good question.
It's something to consider.
For sure.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the business world,
Okay.
because social media has completely transformed how businesses operate,
Oh, yeah.
especially in terms of marketing,
Absolutely.
like platforms like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
All of them.
They offer such powerful tools for businesses to reach their target audience.
Right. They're so good at that targeted advertising.
Yeah, and the analysis really emphasizes this direct line of communication.
Right. You can talk directly to your customer.
Yeah, like through comments, direct messages,
Here.
you can really build a community and get feedback in real time.
Which is so valuable.
Yeah. And you can see what people are saying about your product,
Yeah.
what they like, what they don't like.
You know, are they responding to your ads?
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's the growth of e-commerce. Like Facebook Marketplace, Instagram shopping. Like people are buying and selling
Right on the platform.
directly through these platforms.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
It is.
But of course, there are downsides.
There always are.
And the analysis talks about like the prevalence of fake reviews,
Yeah.
which can be a real problem
it can.
because it makes it really hard for consumers to know
Right.
like
Yeah.
what to trust.
What to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also just the intense competition
Right.
on these platforms.
Especially for small businesses.
Yeah.
It's hard to stand out.
Like if you're a small business
Yeah.
with limited resources,
Yeah. How do you compete with the big guys?
it's tough.
Yeah.
It is. So again, thinking about our listeners.
Yeah. Would you buy a product based solely on social media ads?
Yeah. Would you trust those ads enough?
Like why or why not?
Good question.
Yeah.
It's something to think about.
Oh.
So
Let's move on to,
I think one of the most important areas that this analysis covers
it's a big one.
is the impact of social media on mental health.
Yeah. Mental health and well-being.
Yeah. And this is something that gets a lot of attention these days
For good reason.
for good reason.
That's so important.
And the analysis presents like a really complex picture.
It does. There's a lot going on there.
So on the positive side,
Yeah.
The analysis talks about how social media can foster supportive communities,
Right.
like for people who are struggling with their mental health.
Yeah. Or pursuing like fitness goals or hobbies.
Yeah.
Like you can find your people online.
Right.
People who share your interests.
People who get it.
Yeah.
And that can be really powerful.
It can be.
And the analysis also talks about the role of awareness campaigns.
Like the mental health awareness movement.
Right, using hashtags and stuff
Yeah.
to spread awareness.
Yeah. And that's helped to reduce stigma
Yeah.
and encourage more open conversations,
Yeah. People are more comfortable talking about it now.
which is huge.
It is.
But of course, the analysis also points to some serious negative effects.
Yeah. There are some downsides.
And I think one of the biggest ones is this idea of social comparison.
Right.
Like you're constantly bombarded with these curated, idealized images of other people's lives.
Yeah. And it's so easy to compare yourself to that.
And that can really fuel feelings of anxiety and depression.
Yeah, you start to feel inadequate.
Yeah, like you're not good enough.
You're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's cyberbullying.
Right.
Which is just a horrible
It's a huge problem.
And the anonymity of the internet makes it even worse.
Yeah. People can hide behind their screens.
Yeah. And say things that they would never say to someone's face.
And the reach is so much wider.
Yeah.
Like it can go viral.
It's scary.
It is.
And then the analysis also talks about sleep disorders.
Right.
Like all that late night scrolling.
Yeah, you're on your phone in bed.
Yeah.
And it messes up your sleep.
And then you're tired the next day.
Yeah, and then you're not functioning at your best.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
So, again, thinking about our listeners.
Yeah.
How do you balance your social media use with protecting your mental health?
How do you stay healthy?
Yeah. What are your strategies?
That's a good question.
So let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And talk about the role of social media in politics and society.
Yeah, it's become so influential.
So influential.
Yeah.
And the analysis talks about how it's become this powerful tool for raising awareness and mobilizing activism.
Like movements like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
They've really gained momentum because of social media.
Yeah, it's given them a global platform.
Yeah, exactly.
And the analysis also points to government transparency.
Right.
Like leaders using platforms like Twitter or X now to communicate policies and engage with the public.
Which can be good.
Yeah.
But it also has its downsides.
Yeah, like everything else.
Right.
But the analysis also highlights like the dangers of fake news.
Oh, yeah.
And misinformation. It spreads so quickly online.
It does.
And it can have a real impact on elections.
Yeah, and public opinion in general.
Yeah.
Like it can really sway people.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not careful.
It's scary.
It is.
And the analysis also talks about polarization.
Right.
Like these echo chambers and filter bubbles.
Where you only see information that confirms your existing beliefs.
Yeah, and it makes it really hard to have constructive dialogue.
Yeah, with people who disagree with you.
Yeah, and that's a big problem for society.
It is. It's dividing us.
So here's another question for our listeners. Based on everything we've just talked about.
Yeah.
Do you think governments should regulate political content on social media?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
It is.
With no easy answers.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider. Let's talk about privacy.
Yes, privacy and security.
Yeah.
Because this is another big area that the analysis covers.
Yeah, this is something that people are increasingly concerned about.
And for good reason.
For good reason.
The analysis outlines a number of risks.
Right.
Like data theft.
Yeah. Hackers stealing personal information.
Yeah, and then using that information for fraud.
Yeah, identity theft, all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is.
And then there's the whole issue of like companies tracking our data.
Right.
And using it for targeted advertising.
Yeah.
Like, is that...
Okay, it's a good question.
But where do we draw the line?
Yeah, how much privacy are we willing to give up?
Yeah.
In exchange for these free services?
And then there's identity theft.
Right.
People creating fake profiles.
Yeah, to impersonate others.
Yeah. Which can be used for all sorts of malicious purposes.
They can.
So it's important to be aware of these risks.
Yeah, for sure.
And the analysis does offer some advice on how to protect ourselves.
It does.
Like using strong passwords.
Yeah, don't use the same password for everything.
Yeah, and don't use like password 123.
Oh yeah, that's a bad one.
Being cautious about the information we share online.
Right.
And adjusting our privacy settings.
Yeah, take some time to go through those settings.
Yeah, most people just like click accept.
Yeah, they don't even read.
Without even reading them.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about our listeners.
Yeah.
How concerned are you about your privacy on social media?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, where do you fall?
Where do you fall?
Something to think about.
So
let's end by looking ahead.
Okay.
To the future.
The future of social media.
Yeah, what's coming next?
And the analysis talks about some really fascinating trends.
It does. It's pretty mind-blowing.
So one of the big ones is VR.
Right, virtual reality.
Virtual reality social networks.
Like Meta's Horizon Worlds.
Yeah.
That's one example.
Like
It's like a whole new level of immersion.
Yeah, like instead of just looking at a screen.
Yeah, you're actually in the environment.
You're in it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
And then AI.
Oh, yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
AI is going to play a huge role.
It already is.
Yeah.
Like think about chatbots.
Uh-huh.
And automated content moderation.
Yeah.
Like that's just going to keep evolving.
It's going to get more sophisticated.
Yeah, more integrated into our lives.
And then the analysis also talks about decentralized platforms, which are really interesting because they're built on blockchain technology, which could potentially give users more control over their data.
Yeah, and more privacy.
Yeah.
Which is something that people are really craving.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
So for our listeners, thinking about all these possibilities,
what changes would you like to see in the future of social media?
What would make it better?
Yeah. What are your hopes and dreams?
Yeah. What's your ideal social media platform?
So I think it's safe to say that social media's impact is huge.
Huge.
It's complex.
It is.
It's multifaceted.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we could talk about this for hours.
We could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Yes, some things to ponder.
And you know, we've explored its influence on how we communicate, how we learn how businesses operate, our mental health, politics, privacy.
Like all the big stuff.
Like it really touches every aspect of our lives.
It does.
So the analysis ends with this really thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Which I think is a good one to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
Considering everything we've discussed, do you believe that the benefits of social media
ultimately outweigh the drawbacks?
That's the big question.
This is the big question.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer,
No.
but it's something that we all need to grapple with.
For sure.
So on that note, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
You know, we've talked about all these emerging trends.
Right. VR, AI, decentralization.
Yeah, like these technologies are evolving so rapidly.
They are.
So how do you think our relationship with social media is going to change in the coming years?
Yeah, how will it evolve?
And what are some of the long-term societal implications?
Yeah, the things we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, the unintended consequences.
Right.
It's definitely something to keep thinking about.
For sure.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
See you then.